Okay, fine. I'll post something. Hey guys. All right, well, enough of you have pecked at me and asked me to write a book or start a podcast or do something, be a life coach, something along those lines. And so I thought you guys were all insane. And then the universe had me tested, and it turns out I'm insane too. And so it's a good kind of crazy. So I figured, what the hell, let's do this thing. And what inspired me actually to sit down and get in front of a camera and turn the mic on was, I've had it sitting here for quite some time, was I was driving on a road trip recently, bringing my son back. And we were my husband and I were listening to the Telepathy Tapes podcast. And so if you know what that is, then you know. And if you don't know what that is, go search it up, listen to it, listen to all the episodes, watch it beautifully unfold. What I really loved about it, to give a summary, like what I really loved about the way those podcasts are laid out in those episodes is it starts really elementary. And I don't mean that in a negative sense at all. I mean that in a beginner sense, as you start to peel back what the universe is and how things are interconnected and what that network looks like, and kind of like the journey of what you go through during that awakening and during that realization, where you now have like awareness on how things work and kind of behind the veil, behind the scenes. And it's such an analytical perspective. It's just really beautifully put together and takes you on this journey of this podcast or spiritual awakening. And the whole time I'm listening to it, I'm looking over at my husband. I'm like, this is what I said. And so in the beginning, as it develops slowly, I'm like, so what's actually happening here is da 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 da. And I'm kind of giving the behind the scenes, like frequency kind of explanation. And I was like, they probably won't touch on it though. And then as the episodes unfold, sure enough, there's a whole episode explaining that. And so it's just, and from a perspective as somebody, I'm personally writing a book right now about my spiritual awakening journey and what that looked like for me, and really stepping into who I am and my soul and my purpose. It really became a struggle for me in how to dictate that into words so people could understand it and really take fruit from that and be able to apply it in their own spiritual awakening. Because when I was going through it, I couldn't find a lot of information on it. And so like tangible information to make my analytical mind understand what was actually happening. And so I really had an appreciation for this podcast because I know how hard that is to articulate. And I mean, she just in season 1 sums it up. And so it's a really cool pinhole into the universe and what those networks look like and how they communicate with each other. And it's a great entry into oneness and growth and into not wasting the abilities that we actually have. And so I personally had to rely on a lot of downloads, that kind of thing, during meditation and medication, same thing. And so I had a lot of mistrust. I was like, no, that's crazy. Like, that's not real. That's not how that works. That can't be how it works, because I didn't read it anywhere. I just have a knowing of it. And over time, when you start playing with the universe starts showing off. And so over time, there were so many instances where I was like, that couldn't have not been real. Or it couldn't have not happened, because there would be times when I would be counseling people, and the advice I would be giving, it wouldn't be my own. It wouldn't be my own thoughts. I wouldn't understand how that worked. And then as I'm explaining it, it becomes completely clear. And then there are times when I go back and fact check, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's totally how that works, and then you start really being like, okay, so if that's a download of information, then that means you start having this connectivity on the other side, and you start to understand how you can really explore mediumship and how you can really explore, just telepathy or the connection with nature, or really the connection with anything, and really explore our history as a race and ancestral. okay, so one thing we're going to get out of the way, I stutter. This is why I thought you guys were nuts for doing this podcast. I stutter like a madman. So if I keep this going, you guys are just going to have to humor me and deal with my stuttering. And as I have downloads, it gets worse, or I will short out and forget my sentence. So super fun there. Okay, so I had to do a restart here because I have no idea what the hell I'm doing, but I figure I'll just clip it together after. But as I was saying, so I really had to test the universe of my own ability. And though it was fun, it was a long road. It was many years. And the world is going through it right now. It's like everybody I know is in a tower moment. Everybody I know is going through it. And I mean going through it, like actually going through it, not just being baby whiners. The whole world is facing it right now. And like there is a way through it. There is, a light on the other side. There is hope. It's just when you're stuck in the old, tar pits that you hold yourself in, it's hard to see. But I'm here to tell you, as somebody who took up residency in those tar pits for a long time, there is a way to claw yourself out of them, but you have to do just that and claw yourself out of them. And something that just comes to my mind now that stood out to me in the telepathy tapes is it's often mentioned in there, non-speaking autistic individuals have an easier time accessing this kind of connective tissue to the other side of the veil and with each other and with consciousness as a whole. And so I really loved seeing how the neuroscientists kind of test it and assess it, and they do these scans and they see the brain waves as they're channeling and that kind of thing. Or they're meditating or doing the telepathy itself. And so it's interesting seeing the contrast of that and what's, in my opinion, actually, happening and what makes it so easy for them is they don't have to have the same kind of ego deaths and humbling lessons that we go through as voice users. And what I mean by that is, of course, they have humbling lessons, but they're not in tune with their three-dimension bodies, but they are also not encapsulated by them. They're not in tune by them. And what I mean by that is the ego deaths that we require, the work behind those, what it means to have an ego death, what it means to really do the work to see where you yourself fucked up and where you yourself needs to take accountability. Where are you projecting? These things are going on in your life. Well, what are you allowing to happen in your life? And they're hard questions to ask yourself, and they're hard things to really step into and feel and process. But they're absolutely necessary, because then what happens from that is a certain humility where you step a little bit closer to operating from a place of love and less from a place of survival. More technical difficulties, not the point. So what happens is when you start to be able to operate from a place of love and understanding, really it's you've done that self-work where you've really picked at the things that happen to you or the mindsets you have or the script you tell yourself and shift that perspective, and you really gain an ability to have forgiveness for yourself and therefore understand how to forgive others. And you start to really have empathy and gain this understanding of how people tick and how people work and kind of what they're going through. And, of course, the universe will throw tower moments in there to kind of keep you in a balance where you don't forget to also have that love for yourself. But the point is these people who have this autism have a lot of opportunity, a lot of lessons early on and just with existing in this world. And so they really have a lot of practice at operating from a place of love. And they really have that tie to the other side where they have understanding and they have that love and they have that connection and they can learn from one another and really be there for one another. And they know what their purpose is and they know what they want to achieve really young. And really, like I said, the tower moments are all over the place, and the time is now when this story needs to get out there, and my story needs to get out there, and your story needs to get out there. Everybody's does, because it's time now to band together and help one another up off our knees, because it's not a fun place to be. And we're all so distracted about the scuffs on our knees that nobody's helping somebody else up. And I mean, at the end of the day, it is up to you to take those steps and do that work. But it is completely doable. I mean, it's just we're so showered with limiting beliefs, and we're so showered with this nonsense of who we should be. And really, we just need to debunk that within ourselves, and the rest will just kind of fall into place. And as you start to operate from that place of love, and you start to step into whatever it is that brings you your highest excitement, your purpose, you really start to get aligned and you start to get attuned. And that veil between the 3-dimension, this matrix, this, world we live in, and the consciousness, the dimension of consciousness, and how it weaves into infinite dimensions. And it's just absolutely mind-blowing. And how that works, it really becomes easier. There is hope, and even when it's not easy, like I was saying earlier, I don't even know if it recorded or not because of the technical issues, but as I was saying earlier, maybe, I thought I was up on this mountain, in my life, and I was living my best life, and I was unoffendable, and, I had this sturdy mountain beneath my feet that was going to hold me up. And I had all my faith in that. And then before I knew it, this mountain crumbled away and I'm at free fall. Well, what do you do now? Because I didn't strap off, and it's, well, now the only one you can count on is you. And I don't mean that in a cynical sense. I mean that in it starts with you. As my mountain crumbled away, in the same breath, it was the worst. It was such an overwhelming amount of pain. In that same time, I felt such an overwhelming amount of love and support from my people, from the people who do care. And because that veil is so thin for me in that connectivity, not only was I feeling my pain, I was feeling theirs that they felt for me, but I also was feeling their genuine love and their genuine support. So when it comes down to when, the world's falling away, it feels like, and nothing is what you thought it was, turns out to be what exactly you thought it was. Keys. You have something to hold on to. And usually what that is just, okay, I understand that there's a purpose for this pain. And what is that purpose? Because if I can figure out what the purpose is for this pain I'm experiencing, whatever that looks like in my reality, then I could maybe stop it from happening again. And that's what I mean by showing up for yourself, because nobody else can do that for you. Nobody else can prepare you mentally. Nobody else knows your shame and your guilt and your sorrows to the degree that you do, unless, of course, you connect, across the veil. And I can't wait till we're all at that place. And that's kind of what I'm here to explain. But it is quite a process. I think it's really important too to dive into purpose for the pain a little bit more. It's something I live by, because when the ground is swept out from under me, I really lean into that and think about that, because what's happening is there's a purpose. There's a reason why the ground is shaking out from under you. There's a reason why you stubbed your toe. Like what's in the way? And usually, 10 times out of 10, what's in the way is yourself and your mindset. And that's a hard pill to swallow. We have so many things happen to us, and trauma and from other people and love or whatever, that we go, but they, he did this, or she did this, or you would never. But if you know what they said or what they did, well, at the end of it, they're a human being, a sentient being trying to navigate their way through this world. And they're not tuned into their own frequency. And that's fucking terrifying. That's unfamiliar. It's lonely. It's despair. It's depression. Being out of tune with yourself, that's a dark fucking place to be. And I personally have done some shitty things when I'm out of tune with myself. I've done some things that Me, my authentic self, my genuine self would never do. And so I have forgiveness for other people when they show that side of themselves. The thing is, though, is there's a difference between having forgiveness and understanding that that person is going through that current struggle and trying to do that shadow work. Maybe they're trying, maybe they're not. But that's humanistic. That's the whole point of a soul coming here, is to do that work and to grow and develop. And so, what that looks like for people sometimes is being the monster, and sometimes that looks like being the saving grace.
And that's what she said.